emphasis is on well-being, and the definition for us on well-being is when people have the psychological, social, spiritual and physical resources to meet life's challenges and thrive. So the name, Hearts and Minds, well, it is being received very positively. There's the odd one and two that go, not sure about your name, but others have just welcomed it. So the logo by the name, and if you look at our website, symbolises an integrated approach between the heart and the mind, signalling the interweaving of the whole person. And often it's that unseen that is like mental health, and like the spirit of each person as to what that means is so integral to our whole sense of self.
Well, I guess it sort of captures the fact that we've got to look after both our physical health and our mental health. Would that be right?
Yes, and we see it as the psychological, the physical, the spiritual and the social.
Right.
But the name change actually took an 18-month process. You won't believe, it was such a process. So what we did was we knew that with the migrant communities that many of them who rang us thought we were in real estate. We knew that...
Well, because your name was Rayburn House.
Yes. We knew that we cover across Waitemata, but we also provide training across Auckland. And one of the things that became apparent to us is that the GPs in Waitakere and Rodney weren't as aware of the access to our services for their clients. And they saw us as based on the North Shore grounds of the hospital, and so thought we were just this tiny little brick building. And I mean, we've moved from there now, but they still think North Shore. So that's shifting now because we have changed our name and we've done a major marketing campaign to shift that, to make people realise that actually there is support out there across Waitemata.
Well, you were just a little brick house, weren't you, at the entrance to North Shore Hospital, and I can remember visiting there probably 10 years ago when I was sort of introducing myself around to the mental health community, and it did feel as though you were part of that hospital. Now, where have you moved to now?
So now we're in Northcote, by Northcote Library and above North Art. And, we're in the heart of a multicultural community, and it's going under significant development. So working alongside communities to feel part of this development is really, really important. But Northcote is an amazing place. So, the history of Māori in the area, and then the Pacifica coming in. Then in the early 2000s, Chinese, the older Chinese population coming in, and then another wave of Chinese and Korean and Indian and other ethnicities has been such a mix and blend that's bringing richness to the area. Well, that's how I see it.
I guess there's quite a high concentration of state housing in Northcote, so that probably brings a diversity to...
Yes, it does. The thing with they call it social housing now, and whereas I used to know it as state housing.
We're showing our age.
Yeah, it's going through significant development, and that means that there's social housing, but there'll also be housing that will be affordable housing, and then housing that will be open to the market.
Right.
So it is a major change for Northcote, but it's a great area to be in because we're on we're available right in the heart of community where a lot gather and meet. Yeah.
Well, there's a rich diversity of Asian takeaway places and food stalls and food markets and that sort of thing in that Northcote shopping centre. So.
Yes, there is some wonderful places. It's a great place to walk around when you're having a lunch break and being tempted.
But are you indicating, Carol, that there's going to be big changes in that shopping centre and that you might be really in the heart of all of that?
Yes, there will be, because the shopping centre, the town square, is the planning's going on to upgrade that also. And that'll be to meet the increasing numbers within Northcote. So it is going to be quite a important involvement so that you get greenways, cycleways, which they're all working to do, and enhance wellbeing by being opportunities to engage and bump shoulders and share and have an interactive community is the aim.
That's quite a challenge in Auckland, isn't it, having an interactive community? And how far do you think you've progressed towards achieving that in the work that you're doing?
Oh, well, I feel that we are at that we're just tipping over from that stage as an organisation where you're up for readiness for renewal, and we're on the path of renewal.
Right.
And the reason being is we've looked at we want to actually have a social impact, continue with our work in communities. We want to be environmentally friendly, which we're working towards. And the other thing is being sustainable long term has really made us look and go, okay, how do we do that? And we know our model of working with people is a really good model. How do we replicate it, grow it? How do we ensure that communities continue to thrive? For us, the aim is to keep people as much as you can in everyday life out of the services and getting the support they need when they need it, which keeps us healthy and thriving. And we see that it's not the environment external, like trees and shrubs and bushes for children to move around about a city is really important. But we also know that acceptance and connection or opportunity to play chess outside with other chess players in the local square or whatever really enhances that integrative approach. There's no one wrong way. I think it's a myriad of ways of how to build connecting communities and thrive.
Well, I mean, connection is a very important part of good mental health.
Absolutely. It's. I just always think when you say that, Sheldon, is that the Sovereign AUT and wellbeing index that they did in partnership, measuring the wellbeing of populations in New Zealand, across New Zealand, I think is really good because you have the big international one, but this one really drills down. And the key findings from my memory, so I might be slightly out, but I think it's still pretty much, is that the biggest concern is around connection, and the biggest population areas is for older adults and for youth. You might say, oh, well, with all the social media and everything else, why is that an issue? It's actually the real connection. It's the sort of, when you have a special friend, when you have people who will listen and really hear you, when you engage and you're not judged, when you see people with a world of possibilities in their eyes rather than what they haven't got, Yeah.
Well, let's bring Julie in here. Julie is working at Hearts and Minds as the Wellbeing and Resilience Program Manager, and I guess, Julie, that really means that you're the architect or part of a team who's going out into the communities and taking some really effective workshops and programs that are addressing really topical issues like depression and anxiety. And a friend of mine the other day said, do you know, Sheldon, that there isn't a depression group in the whole of Auckland? Now, I'm not sure, because I later thought of the wonderful wellbeing support groups that you are running at Hearts and Minds. I mean, is there one that addresses depression solely?
There is. In fact, across the Waitemata, and as you know, that's a very large area, I think for this coming term 3, we've got 3 or 4 groups which are specifically targeting depression. But my understanding is that Hearts and Minds would probably be the largest deliverer of groups
across Auckland,
across Auckland,
if not New Zealand, perhaps.
Yeah, specific to that whole thing of building the inner resilience of people and populations, or they building it with them, with getting the opportunity to talk and skills and resources. I'd agree with you, Julie.
Yeah, and of course we're contracted to deliver to 18 years plus. So our groups, we can have 18, 19-year-olds, and sometimes we've had people in their 80s come along to our groups. So it's very diverse, multicultural, many ages. We've seen a real increase in the numbers of people coming through. I think that is largely because of a growing need, but also quite possibly the decrease in stigma. I was thinking last night I watched Dancing with the Stars with my dear old mum, and Zach, a young guy on it, he was raising money for, I think it was definitely mental health, but he said that he himself had suffered from depression, and that's why he was doing it. And we're seeing more and more people come out and say, hey, I've been through this, and it's a great move. It also means, of course, that NGOs such as ourselves, more people are picking up the phone and saying, I need some support, can you help me, Right. So it's great.
So you're getting pretty good response to these wellbeing support groups that you've got out in the community. I mean, you're running them in Rodney, West Harbour, Waitakere and North Shore. So what's the response like?
Large area. The area in Waitakere is more recent for us, and as you can see by the Term 3 program, we were running 3 in Henderson and 1 in Westgate, Massey, such as the demand. Every term now we're basically seeing at least 20% increase, which is quite a significant trajectory, isn't it, really, for the future? So it's great to see. I mean, we've got a great team at Hearts and Minds, and the fax is going, the emails are going, the phones are going, and every day we're meeting new people who want to engage.
So what are some of the subjects that you're covering off in these wellbeing support groups?
Yeah, so we have a team of counsellors, psychologists and psychotherapists. And they are contracted to deliver the groups, different modalities. So, for example, most of the groups would include at least some mindfulness. There's a few that has a larger proportion of sort of mindfulness approaches, but ACT, acceptance commitment therapy, cognitive behavioural therapy, DBT, so quite a range.
Right, but these therapies that you're introducing to address things like anxiety. I mean, in your Term 2, you had parenting anxious teens and tweens. Yeah. And that was something, Julie, that you talked about in an earlier interview, I think, which was probably last year. Yeah. And I mean, I was quite surprised that, anxiety is apparently becoming a very real issue with 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds. They can't get back to school after a holiday. They're so anxious. It just doesn't square with this wonderful country that we live in, which is supposed to be so relaxed.
I know, and I think young people these days, they're subjected to a lot more, this is my personal opinion, a lot more pressures than we grew up with. I mean, even social media, we all know there's been lots of conversations in the media about that. It's hard for young people on their self-esteem when they're constantly measuring themselves against who they see on their computer screen.
With Take It From Us on 104.6 Planet FM.
One of my dreams is, and I've already sort of got it in my head, is that if you looked online onto an area, you can have everything pop up that's available, besides also as an agency providing that when people ring. Because in your local areas, there is so much going on of opportunities for you to interact and join in, but people just don't know. And so I encourage anyone listening is that ask at the library, go online, use whatever, ask the local community constable, ask if they've got a community coordinator, but in any area there are things happening, and it's like, get someone to help you.
Yeah, so, I mean, if we were talking about going online, I guess you'd just look up Support Services North Shore and a whole lot of things would pop up.
Yes, and often we know about also if someone rings us at Hearts and Minds, we know of what's happening in other areas because we're connecting with agencies.
Yeah, well, you call it here on your brochure about the wellbeing support groups. You call it the Hearts and Minds Hub, and this is in Pearn Crescent, Northcote, and the phone number is 441 8989.